Hello everyone. Now we are in the week 13 or the 13th week of my .NET Weekly journey. So as promised from last week or previous video, I will try to dive deeper or dig deeper into .NET Publish. And as so now I can ensure that I will be able to copy my file or zip into my VM to show you that you can run without any kinds of runtime or SDK at all on the target operating system or target machine. This video will contain more demos hopefully. Of course, I may have to go back and forth between documentation and also command prompt, maybe back and forth to my virtual machine. Hopefully, I should have some time to demo to you the .NET Publish with these manifests. I'm also going to demo you the self-contained and also the more advanced form of self-contained, such as the ability to publish just a one file with all of the dependencies of a self-contained included. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Ensure that you will always follow my video series about this, because not just it encourages me more to always keep doing this video as well, but also it gives me more spirit to always not just continue to do this video, but also I'm still on the progress of authoring my MS build using self-publish. Hopefully you will see the result of the book before February 2025 if there is no any kinds of big obstacles, because right now I'm going to also create a new series about the gotchas on your code using .NET 8. It's like trying to decode a whether something that is commonly assumed it is true or not, or something like Mythbuster, but it's not fully Mythbuster. It's just like when somebody says about this, is it true or not, or maybe it's true but not suitable for all cases, for example. So just do it. Right now, I'm going to start this one, and this is me. Of course, I'm based in Indonesia. This is my LinkedIn, or just search my name, and then this is my GitHub ID. And the photo next to me is my wife, and also a member of the foundation known as Project Onboarding Committee. So if you have a open source .NET project that is hosted on GitHub, feel free to ping me if you want to have some support from .NET Foundation. As long as not just running on top of .NET, but also you are using the correct license. Hopefully, I should mention this in the first videos or the previous videos. Yeah, that I'm going to making this as a habit for me to always mention that if you want your project to be supported by the foundation, your project should or must use a permissive license such as MSPL or any kinds of like very famous licenses such as MIT, Apache, or maybe some less less known such as Mozilla PL or whatever. As long as the license is using permissive license, not using any kinds of other license, especially we are not going to support for, let's say, copyleft such as GPL, LGPL, or any kinds of derivation from that. So just ping me on GitHub or my LinkedIn. So these plan updates so far, we are still here, project system management, and also in .NET Tool. We are unfortunately maybe the number 3 or the features still a bit far. But I'll try to finish in this one video, of course. And this is week 13. .NET SDK Publish Tool, Advanced Samples. More emphasis on .NET Core SDK Publish Tool since .NET Core 3.1. This is my mistake. I should take a note that .NET Publish is only available since .NET Core 3.1 SDK, as the documentation status. I'll show you later. Just to quick recap, we are still in the core technologies. This is also related to MS build, of course. .NET Publish is running MS Build. And just to also remind you that this is related to the releases, and those published means to be related or closely coupled with the support of the actual .NET SDK project. So, like, do you have support for Windows or not? But if you are, of course, targeting for WinForms and WPF, you will only support Windows because WinForms and WPF is only those two are only available on Windows. Other than that, such as the ASP.NET console or maybe worker process or some advanced or latest modern projects such as Maui or Azure Function Template, it is supporting cross-platform, meaning that or you can run on Windows, on Linux, and macOS, of course. But the point is, since there are some tightly coupled .NET SDK project system and the tooling and also the platform that is supported, so it may change on each release, of course, as I have explained on the previous videos. Because if you follow me, the .NET Core 3 is using SDK Windows on the first header of the SDK project. But after that, we don't have the SDK Windows anymore, and the SDK of that Windows is being unified in just Microsoft.NET SDK. So that means you still have to pay attention of those things, especially if you are keep migrating to the latest release or the next release. And I'm going to start this. So just like last week, these are the options for .NET Publish. After I try to refresh memories on what kind of publishing that .NET 8 support, this doesn't tell you all of them. Like for example, if you are just using .NET Build and then .NET Publish, it means that by default it is using some kind of model, the first one, which is framework dependent. So after you publish, you have to ensure that the machine has the runtime installed, because otherwise it will not know how to support that or to process that. There is also other option such as self-contained, meaning that the .NET runtime is also published with your application, meaning that the runtime binaries will also be included as part of the result of the publish folder. And I think this is also a very good explanation. So the runtime doesn't need to be installed on the target machine. Of course, by default, it is false. However, when targeting .NET 7 or lower, the default is always true if a runtime identifier is specified. So this is an interesting concept. Runtime identifier is almost somehow like closely linked with the TFM, because if you use for example, .NET 8.0-Windows, the runtime identifier for that kind of TFM will always be all of the runtime identifier that start with Win, or meaning that you are targeting for Windows. And if you are not supplying the version, then you will have support for the supported Windows version for that .NET SDK release. For example, if you publish for .NET 6.0, there is a support for Windows 7. For .NET 8, Windows 7 is not supported anymore, and I think Windows 8.0 or 8.1 is not supported anymore for .NET 8. We already discussed this before on the previous video, but no worries. By default, for the sake of simplicity of this demo and this video, I will assume that I will support the lowest version of Windows supported in or supported by .NET 8.0, meaning that I will support running .NET 8.0 on Windows 10 if I use Windows. To specify the runtime identifier, you can use -r or -- runtime with the runtime identifier. Runtime identifier is something that is more like a constant, meaning that the values depends on the identified runtime support on each of the .NET release. Usually, the recent version or the latest version can have much more kinds of runtime identifier compared to the previous release or previous version. But there can be some differences. Some values are not supported anymore, like the one that I mentioned to you before. Windows 7 is not supported by .NET 8.0 anymore. Therefore, we cannot specify framework-dependent application, runtime identifier for Windows 7. Of course, we can also assume that I can just specify using, I will like to target Windows using 64-bit by default or 32-bit. And then we have also the OS. If you are using runtime identifier, I think it's better to specify that directly in the runtime identifier instead of the OS. I'll explain to you later. And also the target architecture. Target architecture is basically you are going to specify either 64 or 32-bit. Since most of the .NET SDK always assume that initially you run on Intel processor, that then you can always target to assume that you are either targeting for Intel 64-bit or Intel 32-bit. That goes the same with the AMD as well, although the concept of x64 comes from AMD. Yeah, we have discussed the other options such as the verbosities and no build. Hopefully, I could have some time to discuss the manifest. Otherwise, I will defer this to the next video or the addendum of after this video, just to ensure that I will only focus on this one manifest with some samples. Okay, now the next one. It is not much different from the previous videos, but I put some notes here. .NET Publish is available since .NET Core 3.1 SDK. You can use this .NET Publish not just publishing app on .NET Core 3.1 SDK or later, but you can also publish .NET 2.x app or code or TFM using the .NET Core 3.1 SDK or later. This kind of .NET Publish you can also use to publish .NET Core before 3.1 SDK. But I think in this year, 2024, you should not support the very old version of .NET such as .NET 2, .NET 3, and .NET 5. Especially those versions are long time. It is being not supported by Microsoft anymore. So if you already have 6.0, start to migrate to .NET 8 because .NET 8 is also LTS from last year. And if you are using .NET 7, start to migrate to .NET 8. .NET 7 support is already ended. We are going to have .NET 9 this year, but you have to wait for that for the release. But you can also pretty sure to use .NET 9. Now we have a .NET 9.0 RC or release candidate. You will always have the guarantee that there will be no new features added since we are now in the release candidate. That kind of publish is also related to what kind of publish types. So after I look at the documentation, this is taken or captured from the original documentation. The types are the framework dependent for the current platform, meaning that if I run .NET Publish against Windows without any kinds of specifying the runtime ID. By default, it assumes that it tries to support the lowest version. Okay, it tries to support the lowest version, and it is usually cross-platform, so you don't have to worry about can it run on, let's say, other than Windows such as Linux or Mac. The second one is the framework dependent. For a specific platform, specify the runtime ID or runtime identifier. And then the framework dependent binary, you can just use .NET Publish. Next one is also interesting, is self-contained, that Publish will get all of the binaries of the runtime and put it on, or just copy and paste it on the result of the publish directory. I don't have to specify the -r, of course. I don't know whether this is simple or not, but actually you don't have to. If I run .publish on my current machine, like I have now Windows with 64-bit, it will use Windows with 64-bit for .NET 8, meaning that it will support the publishing of the Windows as long as I specify the correct runtime identifier. And this is important. I'll show you later after this. Okay, framework dependent means that it will use the latest version of runtime with latest IDK by default. I say by default, I should add more notes about this. By default, it will use the latest SDK, such the one that I have here. It will use the .NET. But if you specify the global JSON for .NET 8, for example, it will use that instead of the latest SDK. And then the next one, as we have seen in the previous slide before, you can specify framework dependent for specific platform using RID. So not just Win, but also Win-x64, Linux-x64, or Win-x64. Next one is self-contained. This means all of the runtime binaries will be included in the publish result folder. This also includes the necessary OS-specific binaries. Because .NET Core always requires some bridging between the .NET Core binaries and the operating system specific. So this is important because that app must be able to run on the .NET execution context on the operating system without the runtime being installed manually. And then the next interesting thing is the publish single file. So for Windows, you can have one big exe. I say big because you then specify the exe or generate the exe from the publish that will be guaranteed to ensure that all of the necessary runtime, maybe if you want to have an additional NuGet package, and that NuGet package, the binaries will also be included in a one big exe, something like, you are going to have some one file. You can just execute that one and should be guaranteed to run as long as you are. This is a caveat. As long as you are not using any kinds of custom, I think the name should be correct, TLB or TLib or whatever. That goes back to the original .NET framework word. So should be fine as long as you are not using any kinds of TLB or I think TLB, and also COM plus specific code or COM interrupt. You should be fine. Let's say if you are going to publish that single file, but you are going to support for any kinds of library. It is true, it is available for Windows. That library can also be seen as, based on .NET Core. But if that libraries or especially any NuGet depends on any kinds of COM plus, then you have the responsibility to also include the necessary COM plus binaries outside the scope of this publish single file. So I don't have the time to prepare for the demo for this kind of specific case. Let's just say you shouldn't do that because then you have to ensure that your target machine should have the binaries or the COM available because it is not, the responsibility of this publish single file anymore. It's just very, very specific and corner case. I put the link here. So the official docs for this one is in here. Record deploying. Okay, I'll give the demo later after this. But let's look at the official docs first. So this is the link in the slide, deploying. .NET Application Publishing Overview. So, well, this is some kind of a little bit annoying because the URL and the titles always be different. We have here framework dependent executable. So as we have shown and I have explained before, this requires you to ensure that you have the runtime installed on the target machine if you want to deploy on the other machine. And then we have sub executable. So executables are cross-platform, meaning that they are specific on the operating system on CPU architecture. When publishing your app and creating executable, you can publish the app as self-contained or framework dependent. Publishing an app as self-contained includes .NET Runtime, as we have discussed. You don't have to worry about availability of the .NET Runtime. Publishing an app as framework dependent doesn't include the .NET Runtime. So the next interesting thing is, as we go back to the original slide, there is this first point. We'll use the latest version. And I'm not mentioning about OS specific platform, meaning that the first point is always guaranteed as the cross platform as long as we can have the DLL. So let's say you can execute the apps as .NET.dll and it's guaranteed to be run on any platform. But this also requires you to ensure that the .NET runtime is available on the target machine. This also discuss about the customer problem specific. And then, yeah, you can also read on your own. The publishing against a specific platform is using RID. So I have already opened this RID catalog here. No, not this one. Okay, this one. This is important because uh, if we are just specifying win by default, it will use to compile using the machine fitness or architecture. So right now I'm having 64-bit, meaning that if I run the .NET Publish, it will use 64-bit as far as I know. Otherwise, if you have a 32-bit Windows, it will use 32-bit if I'm not specifying the architecture. Usually it comes in the form of, OS like Ubuntu or Win, and then the version, and then the architecture, and there is a additional qualifiers. But honestly, I never use this because it's very rare. But I think this is worth to learn. Hopefully, the runtime identifier is defined as some kind of graph, meaning that if you have Win, and then you have a tree of either Win x64 or Win x86. And this is usually defined in the portable runtime identifier graph.json in the .NET runtime. So just to check this, okay, I already opened this one. This is a helper to view the runtime identifier. I think this guy is creating a repo, very cool repo that you will have this kind of visualization. I haven't tried this. I'm just looking at the RID graph here 2 days ago, so I'll try to show it later if I have some time. And then let's look at this portable runtime identifier graph.json. You'll see here that we have, okay, this one for you, BSD. Oh, you also have haiku. Don't know what kind of that. Oh, I saw that. Okay, you have Linux. You have Linux and Linux ARM. So usually it's just Linux, and then the next one is the architecture. Okay, since there are too many distro of Linux, let's just examine Windows. So Win is derived from any. Win-ARM is derived from Win. Win-ARM with the architecture is derived from Win. Win-x64 is derived from Win. Win-xg6 is derived from Win. What I'm saying is derived is like the child of this node, meaning that Win is the parent node of the Win-x64. Let's go back to the documentation here. So this example is using Linux. Unix has Unix ARM and Unix x64. Unix has this child, Linux, and you have a Linux ARM, Linux IRM32. This is a sample that is defined in the runtime JSON. It's also defined in the portable runtime identifier graph.json, that file. So this is the common guideline. Don't try to parse RIDs to retrieve component parts. Use RID that's already defined for the platform. Meaning it's also, I should say this is incomplete. It's also, you have to be sure that what will be the RID defined by the SDK that you use. You have to pay attention on that one. The RIDs need to be specific, so don't assume that anything from the actual RID value. Don't build RID promptly unless absolutely necessary. So if you have just, Win or Linux, meaning that you are specifying more generic, like you don't care about you are going either to use 64-bit or 32-bit. This is why it is explained that to be able to use RID, you have to know which RID exists. Okay, you have to look at this file. And then you also assume that portable should be used for both building a platform-specific application and create NuGet package. Starting with the 8, the default behavior on an SDK and runtime to only consider non-version specific and non-distro specific, meaning that either you specify Win-x64 or Win-x86. Or in Linux world, you are specifying the Linux-x64 or Linux-x86 instead of Linux-Muscle, Linux Mint or whatever like we see in this runtime. Just here. Can I maybe have Ubuntu? Let's see. Oh, I cannot have that. Uh, I think Debian maybe. Okay, we have Linux ARM. This one is a good sample of, we just simply specify Linux either 64-bit or 32-bit. Okay, next one is interesting. It should be more than this. Okay, we don't have the version specified. Let's look back at the documentation. When restoring and building The SDK uses a smaller portable RID grab. The runtime information dot runtime information returns the platform which runtime is built. If there is a RID specific asset that may be ignored, it will emit a warning. NET SDK 1206. Let's see what's this guy. Um, okay, found version specific. Why is there is no good sample for this one? Is this helps or not? I don't know. Host determines RID specific assets. Ah, okay. Looks like there's a change of behavior since .NET 8. .NET SDK uses a smaller RID grab. Okay. But first, let's see some of this in action. So there should be a version RID for this one. Previously, I see something like there is a Win7 x84 something like that. No, I don't see it. It seems like the version is somehow ignored, if I'm not mistaken. Developers use RID that are non version specific. We follow only a small subset of most common RID used in each OS. Okay. Oh, is there any way I could look for list of the specific RID with the versions? No, I should be able to see that. Or maybe this one, runtime.json. Somehow it looks almost the same as the. Okay, this is only 8 kilobytes. For this one, runtime JSON is 74, more than that. Ah, okay, there you are. You have a version. Let's look for Win. I think I have a fastest or easiest one. Well, actually, I have um, .NET runtime repo on my local, so I could just go to the local repo of that guy and let's look at the folder structure here. SRC libraries, Microsoft Network Platform. Okay. SRC, too many folders. Oh, okay, this one. SRC and runtime. Then I could just try to focus to look for Win. Okay, we now have Win AOT, ARM, ARM AOT, ARM64. Let's look for the Win with the version. Yes, we have Win 10. Win 10 derives from Win 81. Okay, cool. Win 10 ARM, Win 10 ARM AOT. Oh, we have Win 7. I don't know. This is strange to me because we already know that we cannot target Win 7 anymore, but it is still here. Maybe I suspect this is needed because you should be able to, compile the .NET code. Although you are using, let's say, .NET 8 XDK, but you can also still be able or must be able to compile, let's say, .NET 7, .NET 6, .NET 5, because those, especially .NET 7 and .NET 6, I still remember that you can use using Win 7. Okay. Now we have the list of the OS with the version, and also we have the list of the RID without the version. So I think this is the list of non-OS specific. Oh, sorry, non-operating system version specific. That is the correct one. Yeah. Now we have it. Yeah, we should pay attention on this one because usually it is larger than the previous version. Okay, we have the runtime identifier, the one that under identifier graph for the portable one, the one without the OS version. This is the one with the OS version. You see that it's still using the, let's look at the Win10 for now. Win10 derived from WinX1. Whoa. Okay, let's try to search this guy. WinX1, or should I say with this? Yeah. So WinX1 derives from WinX. Derived from WinX. WinX derived from Win7. Hmm. Okay, Win7 derived from Win. So hopefully you can visualize as a tree, because this is the parent, this is the child node. Win7. Win7 has the child of Win8, and Win8 has child of Win10, and so on, so on, so on. Okay. Yeah, I think it's making sense that of course you should use the portable one. Okay. Now the actual demo, of course. So let's clean this guy first. Yes, FD. This is hard. Oh, sorry. Oh, I should use dash instead of dash dash. Yep. So I've already cloned my repo in 3 places. This is the original one. I'm going to use this to showcase the self-contained without any kinds of specific modification, and maybe just to demo you the recap with the original publish. And this is the for self-contained that use RID, and this will be the single file or publish with the single file or single file publish. This means that if I use single file publish, it will assume that the SDK that I'm running now is Windows, and it will use that, including the bitness. It will use 64-bit by default. And let's run this again and try to, you know, copy the file to other computers. So let's use publish. This is tricky. Again, if I use .NET publish inside this folder, meaning that this folder doesn't have any global JSON, therefore it will use .NET 9. So I could not see it, something like this. It will use .NET 9. Instead of that, I will just go directly, yeah, so specify .NET publish with the project. I'll just go directly to the .NET publish samples here. This is using global JSON for .NET SDK. Yep, latest feature was. And I'm going to publish this. Let's just focus on .NET Console first. .NET publish, .NET Console, because publish should focus on single project. You can also use .NET publish for solution, but you cannot specify the output path or the artifact like we have discussed on the previous videos. And I suggest to just use .NET publish for a project. I use this one, and of course I can use runtime identifier or whatever. Let's just focus on using the normal .NET publish, meaning that it will publish using the release configuration, of course. This should be quick because the one that I use is .NET Console. Let's see the resulting folders. Okay, we have here .NET publish samples, and Let's look at the console. Release at 80 publish, and this is the publish. So I'm going to make this as a zip, compress this one, give it a name just to ensure clarity. This is by default framework dependent, of course, and I'm and this is framework dependent. Okay, this will give me about 1.1 megabyte. So let's open this guy. Already, yeah, prepare this. Okay, I should create a new folder here. Framework dependent. This will not work because I don't have any .NET runtime in this VM. Just to give you some quick proof. And where is it? Okay, this one. So I'm going to extract this. Let's just use the default folder name, and I'm going to run this inside a command prompt, of course. Since I'm logging on this virtual machine using administrator, it will always display running as administrator by default. So I'm going to cd this, and although there is an exe, I could not run this because I don't have any .NET runtime. You see, it tries to search for .NET runtime with the version of x08 with the architecture of 64-bit, and you cannot run it because it is not found. So this proves that this is a result of having framework dependent. So let's create a self-contained. I have prepared the another command prompt here. Let's go to this one and run and publish for the console. By the way, I'm so excited that I can finally copy. I don't know why. Just to give you for your information, just to give you something that I have done. I tried to prepare my VM and uninstall some things, and then it just works. Just copy paste. Okay, I'm going to use self-contained. Of course, it will be having a larger size. So let's look at the folder of this guy. We have weekly 01. Also release. Hopefully I have more than that. Yep, I have all of this, including the .NET Core runtime. Just copy this, compress zip. It'll take some time to compress it because if I copy one by one, it takes longer. Please self-contained. There you are. I'm going to copy to my VM. Where is it? This one. Self-contained. Paste it here. Okay, and then I'm going to extract this guy. Extract. Or maybe just copy this and cd. Yep, we are now within sub content. Yep. Ensure that the exe is available. .exe. Okay, we have .NET exe. .NET console. Yep, this proves my point that you can run .NET using self-contained. I mean, without any kinds of clinical runtime installation on this machine. Just to have a quick check, this doesn't have any kinds of SDK or runtime. This info SDKs. I could not do that. Even simplest or simpler one, that's just info. I could not do this. So now you see the sample is working. And let's go to the next one, the one that is also very interesting, the one that gives you one single file. Okay, let's look at the documentation here. Let's just close this because this is the documentation for the NID visualizer. Let's look at the documentation. Okay, runtime identifier. Okay, publish a single file app. There are two ways. One is having this element of XML inside your project file, publish single file, and then you put the value to true. Or you can also specify by embedding the property as a parameter -p, the colon publish single file equals to true. Okay, so let's try this one. I could just ignore the Linux. I'll show you that I could, you know, I could ignore this. Just use the default value for now. Then I'll show you on the other command prompt here. Let's go to the .NET publish to ensure that I have the clean one, clean folders, and .NET publish. Single files equals to true. No. I should specify the project first. That console. Single file equals to true. The documentation says self-contained equals to false. Why? This is to me a little bit confusing. Actually, I don't have to specify this one. Let's see. Deploy with CLI. Okay, let's look at this documentation here. With CLI. Yeah, it says self-contained to true. By default, it is true, I think. Okay, let's look at the option for .NET Publish here. Publish default is false. However, when targeting, okay, since .NET 8, the default will be false instead of true, because true means when you are targeting .NET 7 or the previous version before .NET 7. But let's look at the documentation first. Again, you know that I sometimes feel annoyed about this because somehow the documentation is not quite uh, easy to understand. So let's look self-contained deployment, deploy with CLI. Okay, look at this guy. I see. If I use self-contained, tells the .NET SDK to create an executable as in self-contained equals to true. Yeah, it mentioned or discussing about trimming, but trimming will be in another video. Okay, self-contained deployment. Self-contained that doesn't roll forward to the latest self-contained executive patch. Yes, of course. It always depends on the runtime. Then you really have to ensure that your binaries has to be updated manually, or maybe you can also use other kinds of models such as uh, Squirrel or whatever that helps you quite a lot when you try to always check the latest version. Okay, let's see. This is using. Okay, since I'm not specifying self-contained equal to true, this should be false by default, right? So let's look at the folder here. Um, 01. Let's look at the folder here. So my option should be false, and then there should be, but there is still an exe. Oh, interesting. Okay, so not in this one. Hmm, this one. Okay, this is 401. Okay, this one. And this one doesn't have exe, I think. Oh yeah, I think it has it. So what is the difference? Let's look back. SCD. SCD. What is that SCD? Platform specific executable. Okay, let's compare to the when I do publish. It also has this one. So 136 KB, and on the self-contained, this is the same. So what would be the difference? Okay, this is a little bit annoying to me. But since you are running framework dependent, of course you can directly execute that using .NET. I'll show you as the documentation has already mentioned. Okay, I think I could just run this DLL here using .NET. Okay, .NET slash, not this one. Bin, of course, bin. Slash release slash netx0 slash DLL. You see, but you can also run with the exe. So I can run. You have the same. Oh, okay, this is starting to annoy me. If this is guaranteed to be portable, or maybe let's try to run it on inside my WSL. Just run this guy, Ubuntu. Yep. I have this Ubuntu now. Let's look. Okay. I have to go to the D. Is this the correct one? No. Oh, using, yeah. Now, now I can go to my. Okay. Then I could go to the publish samples, and then let's try to run. Is it still available? There you are. Okay, X08. Ooh, interesting. So, .NET, just to prove whether this is a really cost platform or not. Let's see. .NET and .NET console. It seems I could not use it. Okay. Oh, no. I have to use pin. Release. X0. Let's try to run this. Yep. It is cross platform. Cool. Let's try to run exe. I don't think it can run. With different file extension. Or maybe I just could run this without specifying .NET, of course. Maybe I missed something. Great. This is so great. The exe somehow nicely provide pure cross platform. Okay, great. But then the documentation should specify that this exe is not specific to Windows, right? Usually exe is only available on Windows when you compile to Windows. Right now I have a compile here, and then it can run on my Ubuntu. Surprising. Or maybe, I don't know, before. Okay, now let's go to the other folder uh, with the 01. Um, let's see. Oh, no. Okay. CD Indonesian and CD. Okay. Let's try to run .NET console. Of course, I'm going to use pin release and X0. Maybe publish. No. Or let's try to run the exe directly. Okay. cd.net console. .NET console bin release. Okay, we have RID here. Oh, I see. So, of course, I could not run this. Okay, let's try some nasty thing. Just directly run it. Oh, oh. Is there something that I have to specify? Okay, publish. We have here Windows specific. It's more like Windows specific. Command not found. It seems it cannot recognize that. Command not found, although the file is there. Hmm. Oh, let's try to execute. Why is the DLL is not recognized? Oh yeah, because it's only just this for Windows. Okay, yeah. So those, yeah, this is correct. This is the correct behavior. So that those Windows should also not be run under Linux. Okay, have file is the the have file. Oh no, not the have file. The documentation for or the help documentation link is correct, but it is not quite clear enough. Okay, now the sample is good. I already demo. Okay, the last one is the single file. Let's go back to the self content single file publish or publish single file. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Publish, 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 publish single file. Okay, single file deployment and executable. You see, the title is this, and then single file overview. There are two ways. One is specifying, but I honestly, I suggest to not use this inside the CS prod because this will always slow down the compilation and would also slow down the CI. Just use a specific step with the single file equals to true. Okay, I'm going to run this against the other repo that I have just to ensure that I have isolated environment. I'm going to use this one. Yeah, and I'm going to run this. It will be a bit longer. And let's look at the resulting folder. .NET console, bin, release, netx0, win, publish. So outside the publish, all of them are there. It's like you are seeing without the -p publishing a file. And the content of this publish is this guy. I'll just copy these two, and paste it on my VM. Where is it? Is it closing? Oh no, this one. Okay. Console using single file publish. Paste. There you are. Now I'm going to run this. Check whether it is runnable or not. cd single file publish. Of course, the exe. Yep. Now you can have one single file executable. It is, of course, very large, 70 megabytes, but you can ignore the runtime installation because it is actually self-contained with the additional feature like you have it in one file instead of many files, many DLL. Okay, this already proved my point. You can use this one like another VM. The next one is published with manifest and also trimmer. I'm afraid I already spent quite some time to ensure that this demo should be running well before. I will continue in a separate video. If I have some time, maybe there will be another video shortly after this, so you don't have to wait on next week, hopefully. And of course, that video that described the .NET Publish with the manifest and also more samples using uh, .NET Publish with Trimmer. There's also nice thing about ready to run. Ready to run is also some kind of different thing. Why I'm not putting that inside this guy? Because ready to run is completely different. It is OS specific because you don't use ready to run for other kinds of portability, like the resulting of the ready to run on Windows cannot be run on other than Windows such as Linux or Mac or whatever. So that would require another discussion, because ready to run means that you are as close as possible to your underlying platform. Okay, why is that? Let's look at the documentation here. Just bear with me. I'm not putting that ready to run on my slide because, yeah, that will maybe a little bit distracting to me. And then I'll try to search for documentation for that. Okay, so disadvantage. There should be something like ready to run. This one. Ready to run compilation. Oh, I should open this on a separate tab. Impact of blah blah blah. Compiling your application assemblies as ready to run. Ready to run is a form ahead of time compilation. Improve startup performance, reducing amount of work just in time, blah blah blah. Need to do as your application loads. Binaries contain similar native code. So the startup time would be faster. Honestly, I don't know how to measure that, because when I run this console, maybe it's just very simple app. I should try to have some samples or larger samples. I don't know how to do that easily for now, but let's see. But basically, the resulting binaries is totally different from normal self-contained or single file publish, because then you will have as close as possible with the operating system, and therefore it is OS specific, and it is also can be seen as architecture specific, of course, because publishing ready to run means that you have to ensure that you have the correct RID. Okay, this is for the next week video, and also the publish with manifest. Interesting. So let's try to find out, is ready to run available from starting, or which release this guy is available. I don't have this one. Ready to run. It says AOT, but deployment models. What's the difference between this and native AOT? It's almost the same. It's a form of AOT, yes, but what is the difference with this native AOT? Oh man, I was thinking it is the same, but it seems totally different. We have published AOT and also ready to run. As usual, you can specify this inside the CS procs, but I suggest you should not do that. Just use it in the CLI to ensure full control. Uh, oh my, it's totally different. You know, this is not included in the original original application publishing overview. Why? It only describes this, although it has this one published with ready to run images. Application is larger on this. Okay, let's discuss this on next video. Hopefully, before next week should be finished. Yep. Let's go back to the slide here. Now that I have discussed all of these four with the additional published single file, yeah, and this is the one that I add myself. There you are. So you have the original overview or the basic of data published last week. This week or this video we discuss samples of data published using copy pasting to other machines. In this video I use VM to quickly illustrate what I'm trying to convey to you and also demo this. As you see, it is working. So uh, you see that this machine of course doesn't have it. It doesn't have any knowledge of any .NET Core at all. So this works. And I think this concludes for this video for now. If you have any kinds of comments or maybe I did something wrong, hopefully feel free to correct me or comment in this video. And I will include all of the necessary links to the video description. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hopefully you hit the bell notification on the subscribe because that will give you notification if I have a new video coming up, not just weekly video. And watch out for the other series, not just this weekly journey, as I plan to, still continue to author the MS Build book and also smaller chunk of video. I think it should be more organized in the sense that that video will take some actual testing and planning, not just, candidly running through a journey like this one. Because then I have to ensure that it is quite clear for me to explain to you that some things maybe is not true as it seems, or maybe it's true for only certain condition or specific cases, but not for all cases, which is something that if you follow my comments or my explanation on my LinkedIn, you'll see that I sometimes giving feedback to that kind of statements. So I'm not going to mention any names for that kind of thing, but you'll see that yeah, you'll see those kind of um, some kind of strange fact keeps showing. So I think I will share my experience and what should be the thinking or the consideration when you see that kind of statements. Okay. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe to this video and see you in the next one. Hopefully, the next one will be less than a week because, yeah, there will be a shorter video after this for those two samples. At least the ready to run and the .NET published with the manifest. If I still have some time, I'll also do the native AOT, which is something, and honestly, it's quite new to me. I never used that published native AOT or something. Let's go back to that one. I never used this actually. It should have some kind of note, when this is what is the first release that this came out, or what kind of or which version of .NET that this came out. Well, I could try to search for that. See you in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye bye.